What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is day 30 of all Imperial Beer Theme Month here on the channel. The beer I'm reviewing today, once again, comes from the Great Divide Brewing Company, and they are out of Denver, Colorado, and this is their Chocolate Cherry Yeti, the 2024 release. So this is an Imperial Stout with cherries and cacao. It comes in at 9.5% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review. And this can is just under 5 months old. I want to give a huge thanks and shout out once again to a very good friend of mine and viewer of the channel, Billy, for this beer. So huge thanks to him. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did. It contains all the goodies that Billy sent my way, and he sent me a lot of awesome beer, as he typically does, including 5 different offerings from a Great Divide, and 4 of them are variants of their iconic Yeti Imperial Stout, and this is the first of the 4 that I'm reviewing. I'm going to review these in order of least to most excited. Not to say I'm not excited for this one, but it's the one that I'm least excited about when you weigh them against the other 3. Now, this sounds right up my alley. Chocolate cherry, love cherry cordials, love chocolate cherry as a combination. Big fan of Yeti as a whole, and this just sounds awesome. They have a spiel on the back here. It says, Chocolate Cherry Yeti is another decadent offering in our revered Yeti series. We've tweaked the hop bitterness for this special release and then added sweet and sour cherries and cacao. The roasty malt backbone of Yeti melds perfectly with the cherries and cacao to make this one smooth sipper. A Yeti in a cherry orchard can be a great thing. Yeah, it could be. But I'm glad they actually mentioned that they kind of tweaked the hop bitterness. I imagine they kind of made it lower. I've only reviewed 2 Yetis on the channel. I did one review, a live review, I think it was back in 2019. I did the base Yeti, and then I did the chocolate oak aged Yeti, which was the 2012 vintage. That variant, absolutely fantastic. Blew me away. At that point, it was like 6.5 years old or something like that, almost 7 years old, and it was just insane how good it was. The base Yeti, however, it was aged, I think, like 5 or 6 months, and it was still hoppy. It still had a huge hop character. So one thing about base Yeti, when you drink it fresh, it definitely is an American Imperial Stout because the hop character is definitely pronounced. I like it with a little bit of age, so they tweaked the hop bitterness probably for all of these variants. The other 3 variants I'll be reviewing should be in this order. White Russian after this, White Russian Yeti, Horchata Yeti, and then Big Yeti, which is a huge 13.5% variant of their base Yeti. Anyway, story time is over. Huge thanks to Billy for this one. Really cool. I'm able to try any kind of Yeti because we have not gotten a distro of Great Divide in like 5+ years. So I'm very happy for it. So we're going to use the left-hand glass because it's the only other glass from a Colorado brewery that I have. That is pouring out like motor oil. Holy crap, that looks awesome. That has got towards, it looked weird. It looked like very, very dark. And now as we get to the end, definitely more of a dark brown. So we'll throw this over here. But yeah, does that look like an awesome Imperial Stout? It does. That head is fantastic. I'm glad I gave it aggressive pour. Has almost 2.5 fingers of this just dark brown / mocha colored head. Super creamy looking. There is slightly like medium-sized bubbles there, but for the most part, it almost looks nitro-esque. Maybe not that great, but it looks fantastic. It definitely is pitch black in the glass. Hold up the light, it's pitch black. But like I said, when I was pouring it out, it definitely had more of like a dark brown kind of color to it, but that looks fantastic. There are some alcohol legs around here, not super pronounced or like very noticeable, but it's there as I look at them. You can see it a little bit, so yeah, that looks beautiful. Let's get a nose. Wow, so they say roasty? Yeah, this is your prototypical like nose on like an American Imperial Stout, like huge roasted, almost into like burnt or charred. It's not quite there, but it's deeply roasted. And because of the cacao, it's accentuating the chocolate that I'm getting from the malt. It has like a 50% cacao bar, but then there's a little bit of sweetness here, like just a touch of like a sweetness that makes me think more of like a sweeter dark chocolate, but I'll stick with the 50% cacao bar. Definitely like a medium roasted coffee is here as well, and it's distinct. Like a lot of times, I don't know how it is for anybody out there when you're drinking, a big dark beer like this. A lot of times, it's hard to tell the difference between where like the roasted malt quality ends, and then you start getting like an actual like coffee character. Like they kind of blend together a lot of times. You could just say it's roasted malt or it's roasted coffee. This smells like there's actual coffee in here. It definitely has a distinct coffee kind of character. So chocolate coffee, mocha for sure. And then there's a little bit of that sweet, kind of I'd say more of a dark cherry. There's a touch of like a tartness. I wouldn't say sour in the nose. Like it smells like it's going to have some kind of tartness to it, but not overwhelming. smidge of like a caramel toffee, you know, caramelized sugars. That roasted quality is so intense, it's insane. And even though they toned down the bitterness or tweaked it or whatever, this is under 5 months old and it still has this earthy, almost like, I won't say pine, but it has like just this resinous kind of quality to it. You definitely can smell the hops. Earthy, floral, piney. But as I go back, the cherries are starting to kind of raise their head a little bit out of the glass. It smells really nice. Making my mouth water. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks, Billy. That is delicious. That is really nice. I do get the cherries. There is a tartness. It's not sour. It's definitely tart, though, on the palate. Yeah, this is good. This is real good. I was worried because anything... Here's my issue for the most part with specifically cherries in beers, but let's just say darker beers. A lot of you are probably thinking what I'm about to say is that the medicinal character, right? Like you get like Sam Adams cherry wheat. I think it's all right. It's fine, right? A lot of people think that has a medicinal like Robitussin cough syrup kind of cherry quality. And I can't argue that. Like for some people it does. Other people like myself, it doesn't. It all depends on your palate and whatnot. Kind of like with the, there's different things in different, ingredients where people get one thing and other people get another thing. And in the case of cherries, you can get that medicinal flavor or you don't. I don't. That's what kind of was a worry here is like, is it going to be too cherry forward? Is it going to be too much of like a tart / sour cherry? No, but the cherry is definitely noticeable. Let's go back for the body mouthfeel. Body's like lower side of medium, or sorry, no, it's definitely lower side of full. I'm fine with it, 9.5%. I think once you hit 10%, I want to see like low to medium full. And if you hit 12%, you got to be full bodied, I feel. If you're not full bodied, you're thin, and it's somewhat of a detriment to the beer. This is right in the wheelhouse of what I like. The mouthfeel has a nice moderate carbonation, maybe a touch under, but man, it's soft. It has this nice softness to it. It's pretty smooth on the palate. It's somewhat creamy. So I think the body and mouthfeel are really appropriate for this beer, and they don't detract. They don't add like, I'm expecting this kind of body and mouthfeel, so it doesn't add a lot, but it doesn't detract from it, which I think is very welcoming. The taste, however, it's great. It's chocolate cherry. It's not quite like cherry cordial, but if you said someone took a Black Forest cake and kind of stuffed it into my glass of a really like rich, bittering Imperial Stout, I'd say, yeah, that's what they did, because this doesn't have a straight cherry cordial. I'm not getting like any of the vanilla you'd get in like a cherry cordial, like, well, some of the cherry cordials. It's not that sweet. But right up front, big roasted malt, like I said, in the nose. It transitions into that medium roasted coffee, and then that 50% cacao bar is more of like a sweet dark chocolate on the palate. Then the cherry hits, and at first it's sweet and kind of melds together beautifully with the rest of the characteristics, more specifically the chocolate. But then it starts to ramp up the tartness, and by the time it hits the back of the palate, this has a nice tart cherry essence to it. The finish is semi to full-on dry, more approaching full-on dry. It's mild to moderately bitter, more approaching moderately bitter. This has a decent hop bitterness to it, but on the palate, unlike the nose, I'm not getting like a distinct hop character outside of like a generic earthiness. That floral pine resinous kind of feeling in the nose was the aromatics are a bit different from the actual taste, and I'm actually happy about that. I didn't really want to have like a resinous pine or floral kind of character on the finish, because I think it would kind of, I won't say ruin this beer. I think that's too strong of a word, but it would definitely change it for the worse. And I didn't want to see that happen, and it didn't. So this is really nice. Now, why I'm saying this is delicious and tasty, it's not the best Yeti variant I've ever had. I've had a perfect base Yeti that's like a year or two old is like fantastic. That chocolate oak aged Yeti is the best Yeti I've had, but this is very, very good. There is a little bit of vanilla now, so maybe you can say cherry cordial. Yeah, and the finish is a little bit of vanilla now. 9.5%, nice warming my chest, no astringency on the palate, hides it pretty well from that aspect, but there is a nice warming, which I like that. I like that there's a warming on the palate. It's almost 10%. I kind of want to know that it's a bigger beer. It's fine by me. I'm debating between two scores. Let me take one more sip here. It's really good. You gotta you don't have to. But I think if you don't really like tart cherry, then you probably would want to stay away from this one. Not that, like, again, this is sour. It just has a nice tartness. But if you've ever had like tart cherry juice, it's like someone took regular Yeti and brewed it with cacao nibs and then put like a splash of tart cherry juice in here. That's kind of what it's like. And I love tart cherry juice, so I'm going to be biased in that respect. This is the one I was least excited about because of the cherry specifically, but I'm now very happy because of the cherry specifically. The two ratings I was thinking about is 4.35 or 4.4. Does it get in the low 4.5 range, or is it a high 4.25? I think I'm going to keep it at a high 4.25. It just doesn't have the wow factor for me to get into the 4.5 range, but whatever. 4.35, 4.4, it's a fantastic beer. So Chocolate Cherry Yeti, the 2024 release from Great Divide, a high 4.25, we'll go 4.35. This is awesome. And maybe it's because I haven't had a Yeti in a hot minute that I'm kind of gushing about this one or thoroughly enjoying it. Because I remember, again, the base Yeti just being an iconic American Imperial Stout that almost borderlines on like a Russian Imperial Stout because of the hot bitterness and the whole nine. But this is a fantastic offering. The White Russian and the Horchata are going to have a hard time living up to this. I don't really count the Big Yeti because that's just a 13.5% version of their regular Yeti, so it's just bigger ABV. But the other two adjuncted Yetis, yeah. And I'm more excited about those other two, but this is going to be hard to beat, I think. So 4.35 out of 5. Price point availability. I didn't pay for it. Billy was not kind enough to send me a can of each of them. I'd assume he bought the variety pack, or if not, he bought singles. I did, however, look online at about a half dozen different places, and the going rate for the Yeti, so this came from their Yeti variety pack from 2024. I think they released this one in November. What I saw is anywhere between $25 to $29 for the variety 12 pack. So you get 12 different Yetis, 4 different Yetis, 3 of each, so 12 in total. And you're talking about $29 at the most. I've been reviewing, by the time you see this, I have reviewed all of the Jack's Abbey Pastry Porter variety pack, which is their framing hammer Baltic Porter. They released 4. They released 4 different variants of that, and they charge $27 to $30 for a 12 pack of that. So right in the same wheelhouse. This is a little bit bigger ABV. It's Yeti. If this showed up locally, I'd probably buy it or at least pick up a single of each. So I think that's a good price point. Availability for Great Divide stuff, no idea. Here in New York State, more specifically the West New York area, I'm in Buffalo, New York. I've not seen Great Divide stuff in at least since probably 2019, maybe early 2020. It's been 5-ish years, and that sucks. I really like Great Divide stuff. I wish we could get their beer. I do know that their stuff, I think, is available in Pennsylvania, so that'd be like the closest place I could go to. I've never seen them I haven't seen them in Ohio recently, so it's a bummer I don't get Great Divide stuff anymore here in Buffalo. I'm sure they have a beer finder on their website. Yeah, they do. That's how I knew they were in PA. They do have a beer finder on the website, so you can check it out and see if they're in your area. But I wish we could get more Yeti stuff because I love Yeti. All the variants, like the barrel age versions, the oak age versions, all that stuff. And the fact that Billy sent me 4 of them, I'm super stoked to review the other 3, and this was a win. So if you've had this one before, whether it is a prior vintage of this, because they first released this one based on Beer Advocate in 2018, so this isn't the first time they released it, let me know what you thought about it. I mean, you got 6-7 years of this one being on the shelves occasionally or rotating, and I'm sure some of you have had it, so let me know. I'm really digging it. And yeah, as far as like the rich, decadent kind of quality of this one, 2 things. Number 1, it does have a moderate bitterness, breaks up the monotony of all the sweetness. And the tartness, I think, from the cherries really do help, again, balance it all out. It's not too sweet. It's not too tart, not too bitter, not too dry. It has a good balance to it. And that's what I really appreciate about it. And I'm going to go drink the rest of this one and I think savor every sip because I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to try this one again. So appreciate it. Till the next one. Cheers. Thanks again, Billy. Cheers, buddy.